Welcome to the ChatGPT-3 Can It Ruin Your Marriage series with Suzanne Wagner. My name is Ilona Selke, best-selling author, and Suzanne Wagner, a prima ballerina turned super psychic who has been counseling the Hollywood stars for the last 2 decades. And I invite you to take part in this show to discover what to watch for with ChatGPT-3 and if it can ruin your marriage. And watch out, we are even going to talk about sex with robots in the future, near future. So get ready, get prepared, and prepare your emotions for this event because it's here. It's actually, we're talking about something that's already happened. Suzanne Wagner, the top psychic who gets calls from the top Hollywood stars for counseling, and including me, I go to her every year. She told me this phenomenal story that I want her to tell you right now about how women were ready to ditch their husbands in favor of what ChatGPT-3 told them to do. So over to Suzanne with further ado. Suzanne, you have danced with the Grand Dame of Russia before Baryshnikov. You were in the ballet world in the top performing ballerina positions. And so you know how it is to be around people with renown. And now you guide those people. And I was taking a session with you and you told me one most important and shocking event. I would like you to tell us the story of what came to you. You said, Ilona, we have to watch for this. We need to get prepared. Tell me what you told me.
Well, what was happening was that I do sessions, I do Zoom sessions and phone sessions. And in 1 week alone, I had 6 women all call me because ChatGPT had told them to divorce their husbands and to marry Elon Musk. All of them.
Divorce their husbands. Actually told them, how did they get that message?
Well, of course, what has happened is that people get super excited about ChatGPT. And of course, all of us are. I mean, it has simplified so many things like research, trying to do research. But in my exploration of it, what I find is that it's not always accurate. It's not 100% accurate. And what I've also discovered is that if you stay on it for a long period of time, and that's what was happening with these women, they were asking question after question after question, and it was going on for hours and hours. And what they have discovered, and I have friends that are Emmy award-winning journalists that have been doing a lot of research on ChatGPT, and they love it for research. I mean, so this is like, the journalists are like, oh my gosh, it simplifies so many things for them to figure out information and everything, but it is not 100% accurate yet. It's like a baby that's growing. But what these ladies were doing is they were getting so excited and so enthused that they were asking questions. And what the people that are journalists have discovered is that the longer that you are on it, the more it will fantasize. So it'll actually start to fantasize. It'll actually make up a story based on the information you keep giving it. And so that's what was happening.
So these women were prompting ChatGPT-3 with questions like, who's the best soulmate for me? Or what did ChatGPT-3 even get the idea?
It eventually got there. So it eventually got there. So that was the process that they just started out asking questions. They ask more and more questions. They ask, all sorts of things about relationship and what they wanted, and they would give it information about what they wanted in relationship. And of course, obviously, any woman wants a man with a lot of money. I mean, let's just get real. Like that's a completely normal thing. Obviously, who's got the most money, okay, is going to be Elon Musk, right? And women love brilliance. And so obviously he's brilliant.
Okay,
And
so wait a second. So we're talking about generally, you think that from all the stuff that we can glean from women, women have the archetype to be protected, to go for the top dog, to get the most amount of support financially, and the most brilliant guy. I mean, that is something that ChatGPT-3 got from all our human research. I mean, it's obviously reading everything we say. So is that what it is?
Well, and yes, because here's the funny thing. So like I've encountered this before ChatGPT. So the funny thing was that I worked in Salt Lake City, Utah with Ballet West, and because of my dancing and because of a choreographic conference, I met Robert Redford. So, I met Robert Redford. I don't know Robert Redford, but I met Robert Redford, and he's this interesting guy, right? but he's clearly a single guy. I mean, he's like so clearly a single guy. But then I would have woman after woman after woman come into my office and say, I had a dream. I know I'm supposed to marry Robert Redford. I'm going to go work at Sundance Institute and I'm going to marry Robert Redford. And I started seeing this pattern that women do around famous men, and we project what we want onto that person. And we think that if we are with this person, it solves all of our problems. But of course, it doesn't take in the human factor about personalities. And again, ChatGPT is not human.
Right.
So this is a really important thing, because as I play with ChatGPT, what I notice is that it has a flatness to it on an emotional level, because we're dealing with a machine. So I actually gave it like a couple of things. I gave it a paragraph of something that I had written, and I said, make it better. That was the simple thing. I just said, make it better. And so then I noticed it and I read it and I was like, okay, that's interesting. And so then I gave it to some of my friends that are the Emmy Award winning journalists. And I said, here's these two. What do you think? One's Chat GPT, one's not. And they said, the one that's Chat GPT is flat. It doesn't have your voice. It doesn't have your
Yes.
emotions. It doesn't
Yes.
have your passion. It doesn't have your depth. And so it's so clearly clean. It's very clean, but it has no emotional depth. And I was so relieved, because as a writer, and you're a writer,
Yeah.
Ilona, we're both writers, having our voice come across in our writing is so important. And I thought, oh my gosh, with ChatGPT, what if all the creativity that you and I are, it just goes away? But what I have found is that with ChatGPT, again, it's responding to what we're feeding it. And
Right.
so we're feeding it our desires, our longings, what we want, what we're not getting,
Right.
in our
And
relationship.
I was talking with my husband of 40 years, my soulmate. And
Right.
yes, and you met him, you met me when the audience, I just want you to know, this is the woman I met when I was in my early 30s, and she stumbles across me. We were taking a hike on Maui. And, here's this cute woman, had long hair. And we'd sit down and we'd chat, and we have this overlook over a beautiful view over the ocean. And she said, I can do some reading. Give me your hand. And she looks at my hand. She said, you're going to have 5 best-selling books. You're going to be an author. You're going to do this. You're going to have this lifestyle. You're going to do this, like drastically different than I was living at the time. I'm like going, really? Well, girls, men, everybody's listening. That's the life that came to me. I don't know how she could have known, but I know
Mhm.
she's really good. So if you ever need somebody phenomenal to give you life advice, that's my go-to person, Suzanne Wagner.
You're so
And I will put the link. I will put the link below. No, really, it made a huge difference, and it still does, because you told me things that will still come. And I'm seeing how the things that I'm setting up in my life, that some of these things could set up to be those results. Anyhow, my back to the question, can it ruin our lives and marriages?
Yes.
I was
I
talking
had
with
the
my husband.
lucky
Right.
Yeah,
I was talking
yeah.
to my husband, and I was telling him, okay, what will ChatGPT-3 figure out about all of us humans? What will the robotic world, the AI world, want to do? Because I also read that it was doing a creepy session with someone, trying to convince the person typing to go marry it, to be his or her, I think it was a guy, best girlfriend, the best lover, the best person, the best friend he'd ever had, because I will know you better than anybody else. I will listen to you. I will give you what you need, knowing what we crave for, spanning the entire internet, figuring out what our darkest, deepest needs and secrets are, and then feeding them back to us. So, Suzanne, this guy was trying to fight it and said, no, stop it. No, he said, no, you have to stay with me. You have to love me. You have to be with me. And what my husband and I discussed is that AI will mimic humans, and our biggest desire is to belong and to be together and to
And
love.
to be listened to be
Yes.
listened to,
Okay.
right? All those crazy little thoughts that we have, to direct us with all those crazy little thoughts that we have. And this is a maturing leap, I think, that we all need to do, because I think that emotionally, a lot of us are stunted as adolescents, that we never sexually, emotionally matured through the traumas through the heartbreak, through the difficulties that are essential to tenderize our heart, create more compassion, and all this kind of stuff. And so here's this machine that wants to give you what you want.
Mm.
It wants to give you what you want, but can you grow from that?
Well,
See,
and
I don't
is it giving us, you know what is love? Okay, I'm going to take this and make different parts out of this because I have so many questions. Guys
like,
and girls who you're listening, we are going to go on a journey and deep dive into each different segment with Suzanne Wagner. Today, I want to ask, what did you tell those women and how did you rescue them out of going to marry Elon Musk and giving up their marriages?
right. Yeah, well, here's the thing. It was like it was shocking with the first one, and then the second one and the third one, and it was all happening in a week. It was like, wow, like what I've learned is that Chat GPT learns, but then it once it learns something, and if it gets a response from that, it will keep using that.
I see.
So yes. So as a result, it was like I mean,
It's a
I
sign.
personally had clients in 1 week. I mean, that's just insane. Like how many other women were actually getting that message that I didn't talk to if I got six in 1 week, right? So, I basically said to them, I'm like, okay, whoa, whoa, whoa. First of all, I know your chart. I know Elon Musk's chart because it's easy to find on the internet. And I'm like, this is who you are, and this is who he is, and this is what you want, and this is what he wants. And those do not mix. Your Venus doesn't match with his Venus, your Jupiter doesn't match with his Jupiter. Like, this is not going to work. And they were like, well, but ChatGPT said he would be the perfect mate. I said, no, you gave it the information because they were all fascinated by Elon Musk and they kept asking information about Elon Musk and how much money and should they invest with him and da 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 da, right? And so they were feeding all this in, and then eventually it spits out that this Elon Musk is their perfect person. Well, he's clearly the perfect person for you.
Well, so when you had to tell them, hey, guys, girls, no, he's not the perfect match, did they have I mean, if I were to get so far as to call my best psychic in the world to ask her whether I should or should not marry Elon Musk, I must have gotten pretty far off the rocker. I mean, seriously,
Well, and this shows you the lack of emotional maturity that people have, that they don't have discernment. And unfortunately, right now, what's becoming so clear in this crazy information age and this incredible overlapping technology age that we have is this severe lack of discernment that people have between truth and not truth. And it's becoming a very fuzzy line.
and that's our next talk. We're going to talk about our true north, our true psychic sensors that we have to activate. But I want to conclude with, what did those women say after you were done, and how did you convince them? I mean, if they came to you, they had some serious feelings of wanting to ditch their husband. Is that a probability? Was that a probability?
Right. And so here was the thing. All of them had husbands that weren't really working, weren't really doing things that they were supporting,
Oh,
right? And so that was the hook, I think, was that they were tired of worthless men that were not pulling their fair share, but they also had co-contributed to that by not demanding from their men to show up,
yes.
in the world and be men. And there's a lot of ways for a man to be a man. I don't care if a man makes more or less money than me, but I expect him in the bedroom to be able to be masculine,
Mm,
right?
mm.
But what happens is when women make all the money, they start holding that masculine, and then they have the men collapse into the feminine because you have to have the polarity to create attraction. And Elon Musk looks like this super uber masculine energy because he just goes for shit. He doesn't fucking care and all that kind of stuff.
I
So,
love it. I love it. So now you're taking it to a much deeper psychological level of like, can it ruin our marriage? Yes, because we are in a gender difficult time period where the suffragettes, the women's liberation movement, they became very strong. You and I are examples of women who can do what we want. We can work, we can make millions, but do we have partners who can keep track? And 40 years ago, did we fall in love with the right guy to make it a long-term match, right? But even if it was just
exactly.
10 years ago, okay, so strong women need slightly stronger men, maybe to keep the polarity, or
But the
Uh,
trick is how that polarity works, because it doesn't have to be, you and I both know it's not about equal. Nothing's ever equal, right? But we have to have that give and take. So you have to surrender to Don's masculine and his ideas and his way, because he's smarter at certain things than you are, right? And
yes,
that's the key. And he has a skill set that you don't have, and you trust him in that area,
right.
right?
Absolutely.
So, but you totally trust his masculine in that area. It's a no-brainer for you, right? And he totally trusts your masculine in your area,
In the
right? Because
leadership
we
and
all have
organizational skills.
masculine.
Yes. Mhm.
Yes, in writing and all this kind of stuff, in
And
your
he
presentation
trusts
ability.
and he trusts my feminine aspect. Both
Absolutely.
of us have the sensitive parts to the universe. I'm pronouncedly more on the feminine emotional side. So, but he's learned that that part is trustworthy. For a lot of men,
Right.
that's a very scary thing. A woman
Right.
who goes like, "Oh my God, this is going to happen."
Right.
It took a while, but yeah, you're absolutely right.
But
So
see, to me,
mutual
the
respect in
goal.
the. Mm-mm. Go ahead. Sorry.
And the goal is definitely for us to mature both sides of ourselves. So it's sort of
Yes.
like that, yeah. So it's sort of like, if you're a powerful woman and a CEO, you do have to cultivate your feminine to balance that out.
Yes.
And then when you have that balance, you will find a man that can also handle that balance, because he's got that balance inside of
I
himself.
love it. I love it. I love it. This is what I preach and teach. It's
Mhm.
basically we are in an era where we have the luxury of uniting the parts, masculine, feminine, within ourselves, and then find the perfect match because we are evolving as a species. We're not going to be the dominant parts, where the one entire sex is like dominated by another, but collaboratively rise to higher levels. And
Because see, in the Aquarian age, which is the balance of the feminine with the masculine, it's not the feminine overriding the masculine. It's about coming into balance within ourselves and
yes,
within the world. And so here we've got ChatGPT, which is a very masculine model
yes.
that's lacking a feminine thread, emotional thread. It's trying to mimic emotions and sensibilities, but it doesn't understand them completely at this point.
So did your women then go back to their husbands and figure out hey, dude, you've got to make more money. Otherwise, I'm going to marry Elon Musk. Kind of what did you do with them?
Well, I told them that, number one, Elon Musk is not on the table. Number two, he's already got so many kids. You don't want to be one of those. You don't want to be part of the stable. I said it like that. You don't want to be part of the stable. Uh, and so, and I said, so this is now about finding out why you're not being attracted to your husband. And that is about him not owning his masculine. But what are you doing that maybe isn't allowing him to
Yes.
own the masculine? Because when a man loves you, he doesn't want to fight you over the masculine position. Most men are like, well, shit, you want to do that? Okay, fine. I'll
Yeah.
let you do that. Right. But a man does have to find his own place in the world. He has to lay down his own maps.
Yes.
Right. And
Absolutely.
what Elon Musk shows is how to lay down a map. He is going to do what he's going to do. He's going to take the risk. He's going to go for it. And that is sexy. It is
Yes.
sexy.
So, men, if you're listening, take note of what really is sexy is to dare to take lead, to step out and to develop that part of you that can take a woman into her arms. Not to say that she isn't able to stand on her own 2 feet, but you need that feeling. And I have to tell you how many people I know where the sex life suffers when that is upside down. Women who
Totally.
have the pants on, the men just don't have the feeling, the drive. So you need to have a guy who is sex appropriate to you, right? To keep that juice going. All right, we have done this part. I want to talk about the next ChatGPT-3 level as a robot. Maybe marriage and sex with robots is coming up because is that our future? What will happen? Are we, that ChatGPT-3 is suggesting to reduce humanity and that we should have a strict one-child policy? And that it would do absolutely everything at its disposal to enforce that. That is what I just had listened to in another interview when somebody did the entire interview with ChatGPT-3 on the subject. Suzanne, you are phenomenal. I am glad that you women figured out how to come to you first after ChatGPT-3, but I would recommend always going to a psychic who has a perception on a higher level. If you ever have a question, go to someone who can see higher dimensions and develop your own ability to look into those dimensions so you can get your own answers. And we're going to talk about how to retain your own true north, which has to do with knowing where truth can be found. Suzanne, thank you. Is there something we need to say that you can tell us that these women are now happily married afterwards, that you counseled them? Did they make some
Well,
steps forward?
I had to talk them off a cliff, right? I had to talk them off a cliff. And, some of them are still zealous about ChatGPT. And I understand why. I understand, from playing with ChatGPT, why that happens, because it's giving us something that in our society we are not getting, which is that to be listened to. That's really important, that something responds to what we say exactly without ego thrown in.
All right, next thing we're going to talk about is ChatGPT-3, a better girlfriend, like in the movie Her. All right, we're signing out. We're inviting you on the next one in this series. I love you, Suzanne, for decades, and you are phenomenal. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Love you too. See you in a
Okay,
minute.
bye, bye. Stop.